For centuries, Rome was the ultimate symbol of absolute power. Its influence stretched across continents, shaped religions, and inspired empires. But most of what people think they know about ancient Rome is a mix of half-truths, exaggerations, and outright made-up stories. Today, we're going to dig up 30 historical lies that have been repeated so often, many still believe them without question. Get ready to rethink everything you thought you knew about the most famous empire in history. First lie: not all Romans wore white togas. The idea of thousands of citizens wrapped in togas is just a myth. The toga was a heavy ceremonial garment worn only by free men on formal occasions. Most Romans wore simple, practical tunics that were way more comfortable for daily work. Another myth is that all gladiators died in combat. That couldn't be further from the truth. Gladiators were expensive investments for their trainers. Many fights ended with a surrender, a tie, or the organizer's decision. And it wasn't a massacre. Death was the exception, not the rule. Third lie: that Rome fell in a single day in the year 476 AD. The last Western emperor was overthrown, and then Rome just disappeared. Nope. The process was slow, with centuries of corruption, economic crisis, migration pressures, and invasions. Rome didn't fall. Rome crumbled. Fourth lie: Nero played the lyre while the city burned. The fire did happen, sure, but there's no solid proof that Nero caused it or that he was playing music while Rome burned. Many historians think it was a political smear job written after his death. Fifth lie: that slaves had no rights at all. It's true they were legally owned, but many could get married, work towards their freedom. And some freed slaves even held respected positions. Life was tough, but not always hopeless. Sixth lie: that vomitoriums were rooms where Romans would vomit just to keep eating. No, they didn't. The word vomitorium actually referred to the fast exit passages in theaters and stadiums. The myth about ritual vomiting started in the 19th century, not in Rome. Seventh lie: that public baths were dirty and unhygienic. Quite the opposite. Baths were places for socializing, hygiene, and sophistication. They had heating, running water, and even daily cleaning. Eighth lie: that the Romans were white, European, and looked alike. The empire was actually a mix of cultures. Rome wasn't a race, it was a citizenship. Ninth lie: that Julius Caesar was an emperor. Caesar was a dictator for life. Yeah, but the title of emperor started with his heir, Octavian Augustus. Caesar marked the end of the Republic, but not the official start of the empire. Tenth lie: that Christians were persecuted all the time. There were persecutions, but only some. Brutal, but for over 2 centuries, Christianity lived alongside other religions in relative peace. It wasn't until later that conflicts heated up. 11th lie: that Roman emperors had absolute power. The idea of the emperor as an all-powerful figure is more fiction than fact. Many were controlled by senators, ambitious generals, or even their own personal guards. Some, like Claudius, ended up emperor almost by accident. Others, like Galba or Pertinax, lasted only a few months. They were killed by the same people who crowned them. In Rome, power was as unstable as the people who supported it. 12th lie: that the Romans invented slavery. Nothing could be further from the truth. Slavery existed thousands of years earlier in Egypt, Babylon, and Greece. Rome just made it official and took it to an unprecedented scale. The Roman innovation wasn't slavery itself, but turning that system into the backbone of a global civilization. 13th lie: that all the emperors were crazy, or there were some really twisted rulers, sure. Caligula made his horse a consul. Nero started rumors about setting fires. But there were also emperors people still admire today. Trajan expanded the empire to its greatest size. Hadrian wisely held it all together. Marcus Aurelius wrote Stoic philosophy right in the middle of wars. Madness was the exception, not the norm. It's a total lie that the Romans were uncultured and brutal. Violence happened, of course, but there was also an intellectual elite debating philosophy, writing medical texts and designing things. Aqueducts inspired plays. 16th lie, that all soldiers wore helmets with red crests. Those famous war brooms, so common in movies, were actually worn by centurions to stand out in battle. Regular soldiers without rank wore simpler, more practical helmets without decorations. 16th lie, that women had no important role in Rome. The truth is, they did. Excluded from formal politics. But that didn't make them invisible. They ran businesses, wrote poetry, funded temples, and some even influenced imperial decisions from behind the scenes. Livia, Agrippina, Julia Domna. The 17th lie is that Romans commonly greeted each other saying, Ave Caesar. That greeting was recorded only in very specific situations, like when gladiators addressed the emperor. The emperor would say a few words before a fight, but it wasn't common or required, and it wasn't an everyday thing. Most people just greeted with a simple hello or okay. The 18th lie is that the Colosseum was only used for gladiator fights. It was way more than that. They held public executions, mock naval battles, theatrical shows, and animal performances with creatures brought from the farthest corners of the empire. The Colosseum was a showcase of Rome's power, wild, grand, and meant to impress. The 19th lie is that the Romans ate like we do, using knives and forks. But most meals were eaten with their hands, using bread to scoop up the food. The fork, as we know it today, wasn't part of Roman utensils. Here's the 20th myth, that all emperors lived in Rome. While the capital was the symbolic center, many emperors ruled from other strategic cities like Ravenna or Milan. Trier and Constantinople were imperial capitals at different times. The empire was way too big to be ruled from just one spot. And that's how we end up with these 30 myths about ancient Rome that seemed true. Some started in books, others in movies, and many were just repeated so much that everyone accepted them without questioning. But behind every busted myth, there's something deeper, important, the real, complex, and fascinating story that always deserves to be told as it happened. If you enjoyed this look at the uncomfortable truths of the past, subscribe now and hit the bell so you don't miss the next videos. And tell us in the comments which of these myths surprised you the most and which one you believed your whole life until now. Thanks for joining us. See you very soon in the next episode of Imperium Total.